Welcome back, everybody, to the Bloch Idea Salon. I'm April Graham, for anybody who doesn't know me yet. I'm the Director of Talent Development with the Executive MBA program at the Henry W. Bloch School of Management here at UMKC. We launched the Bloch Idea Salon to bring together people like us, so intellectually curious people who enjoy engaging in interesting conversations about leadership and business, strategy, culture, and more. So much more. We've been honored to work recently with Nicole Silvey and Chandra Clark to offer the Fit and Fulfillment series. This is our third week and this is our final session. Nicole is the president and founder of Connection Coach KC. She does executive coaching and also diversity and equity inclusion work with nonprofit boards. Chandra Clark is the executive director for the VHL Alliance, which is a nonprofit working to fight the rare genetic cancer von Hippel-Lindau. I hope I said that right. Chandra is also the founder of Beloved. It's a lifestyle brand that's focused on self-worth and self-esteem coaching and career development. Both Chandra and Nicole have been recognized among the most influential women in Kansas City. So we have two of the most influential women in Kansas City joining us for the session. Most recently, Nicole's been selected for the inaugural class of the Band of Angels Rock Stars, and Chandra was recognized in the class of 2020 Next Gen Leaders by the Kansas City Business Journal. And today, in this final session of the series, these amazing ladies will discuss how to find a job that is the right fit for your unique skill set and passion. And we've got some fun exercises that we can do to kind of help us think about what that is. And we'll begin with a short presentation, but then we'll move into some smaller discussion groups that Chandra and Nicole will be facilitating. And during the presentation, please keep your microphone muted anytime you're not speaking, just to reduce any background noise. And you can also use the chat for any questions or comments during the presentation. So Nicole, would you like to kick us off with an overview, and I will pull up our slide.
Absolutely. Welcome. I see some familiar faces that have returned, and then we see some new faces. If you haven't attended the first two sessions, this builds on those, but you don't have to have that knowledge to be able to engage today. And the conversation is going to be one that I know many of us have been considering during this time, especially during this season of the pandemic. I think there's been a lot of reflection and thinking about not only where we are, but where we're going. And our career is a strong piece of that. So I wanted to thank April Graham so much for her support and her ideas and her thought leadership as we've developed this presentation and the whole series. She has been a catalyst for so much of the work Chandra and I have done. And I also want to thank Scott Helm and the Bloch School for having us. And I wanted to throw it to Chandra to see if she had any opening comments before we get into the overview.
Thank you, Nicole. So I just want to thank you all for joining us today for our final session. And again, I want to echo Nicole's sentiments in thanking April so much. It's been such a joy to work with you, and we're so thankful to you and the Bloch School for your support. And we just look forward to the work that we'll continue to do to support others in their career development.
That's right, agreed. And so April did quite a bit of the overview really well, but just to add on to that, what we're going to do today is just continue to talk about, the series is called Fit and Fulfillment. And as we spend the majority of our days at work, having that fulfillment and having that sense of purpose and peace means so much for our overall, not only mental stability, but also our physical well-being. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we've shared in the past, and then build on today, and then give you some concrete tips so that you can take this information, but then you can leave this workshop today and have some action steps and some other reflections so that you can continue on your journey.
So as we move into today's presentation, I'd just like to give a brief recap of the last two presentations we did. So the first session, we talked about the need to feel safe. We all owe it to ourselves to be in a work environment where we feel safe. We need to belong at work. That is a major part of fit and fulfillment. And we all need the opportunity to achieve potential. And the second session, which I have to just say was one of my favorite sessions, we engaged in a discussion last week regarding workplace bullying and working in a toxic work environment and how it affects our mental health and our physical health, and the importance of us creating a plan to transition into a healthy work environment if we currently have found ourselves in a toxic, unhealthy work environment.
And
So,
before we go, oh, sorry, Chandra, can I add something real quickly?
I was actually going to turn it over to you and say, Nicole.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So in session 2, what emerged, we were talking about a toxic environment and what it feels like to be bullied, but it also helped us to identify, are we those, have those behaviors that might be identified as bullying behaviors, and how sometimes those who have been mistreated, who have been the victim of bullying, could then in turn get power and become the bully. So there were so many things that emerged in that conversation, and just the ways in which we conduct ourselves and the impact of that behavior versus our intention. So we're going into, so then are you fulfilled? We talked about right fit, that place where you feel the sense of belonging, where you feel like you're valued, trusted, and respected, and you have the ability to thrive and reach your full potential. But are you fulfilled? So you have that job with the great salary per se, if that's one of the things you're looking for. You may have benefits, you may have the work environment physically that most people say is, wow, that's a great place to work, but does that fulfill internally your goals, your dreams, and your desires? And did we want to do the poll question here?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd forgotten. So what we'd like for you to do is engage in a poll so that we can kind of hear from you in the audience what you think in terms of fulfillment. And we're going to give you a scale from 1 to 10, and you'll see the screen pop up, but how fulfilled are you in your current career? And these answers will be anonymous, by the way, and then we just want to see what pops up in terms of your feedback.
Okay, well, we've actually got really good results. So nobody is not at all fulfilled. There were 2 respondents that were kind of fulfilled, so like a number 5. And then 2 at 7, 3 at 8, 2 at 9, and 3 at 10 extremely fulfilled, which I think is really encouraging. So great for everybody who's enjoying where they're at.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much. And when we talk about fulfillment, it's that personal barometer of what fulfillment means. I've heard people say, I just go to work, I clock in, clock out, go back home, and then I do the things that bring me passion. Oh, thank you. It's popped up now, April. That's great. So people can see those responses. And there's others that it's really important for them while they're at work that they feel a strong connection to the work that they're doing on a day-to-day basis, and only you can determine that. So part of what we'll speak about today is, what do you determine helps you to feel fulfilled? I mean, there's specific attributes that have been noted that if people have those in a workplace, they're more likely to be fulfilled, but you are the one to determine, you're the driver of this. Then we wanted to do a second poll question. Similarly, does your passion have to match your career in order for you to feel successful or content? Yes, no, or not sure. So it looks as if overwhelmingly the percentages are skewed towards yes, that the people on this call feel as if those do have to match, which I think is interesting in listening to the first question. Many of you on this call are fulfilled in your current career. And so I'm imagining and drawing the conclusion that you are doing passion-filled work that matches your purpose at this time. And then some said no. And in the small groups, we'll get to hear more about what determines that. And I know I was one of the people who put unsure because I didn't want to skew the results, but unsure, still thinking about and not certain. And maybe some of the information we'll hear today will help you determine what that means for you, because there's no right or wrong answer. It's really what your internal compass is in terms of how you see your career journey.
Absolutely. So one point that Nicole just made is that it really is about you. So that is the key word to keep at top of mind. It's about you. What do you enjoy? What makes you happy? What brings you fulfillment? So for example, if you are a person who enjoys inspiring others, you enjoy leading others, you enjoy motivating others, that is something that you should consider as you think about what brings you fulfillment in your career. The wonderful part about our career journeys is that we all have unique traits, and we all have different leadership abilities. So where some of us, I often use example, I know people who kind of have a science mind where they have a different way of processing, whereas I feel like I'm more of a writer or creative. And it is you can have the perfect blend of both, but it's also important to kind of know how you learn and then also how you put your skills into play. So at every point in your career, it's important that you do a check to say, what do I enjoy, and am I doing the work that I enjoy, as we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, because we spend a fair amount of our time at work and on our career, we deserve to do what we enjoy.
And if I could just add, Chandra, everything she said was excellent and spot on. What I've done with some of my coaching clients who say, I don't know what I enjoy, or there's so many things they enjoy that they're not sure, how does that translate into a career? What has been helpful is for me to say, think of a time where you just felt like you were in the zone. And everybody's different. It might be you just feel ignited, you feel extra energized, you feel, it might even be goosebumps, hair is raised on your arms, you just feel like this is it. It feels natural, it feels authentic, you just feel, it doesn't even feel like work. Think of those times and think of those key components, where you were, what were you doing, who were you with, and ordinarily that will give you some kind of direction to guiding to what is your true passion. And some people choose to incorporate that in their work or make that a strong part of what they do outside of work. But that is truly when you have those experiences, take note of those. Those are messages to you that you are using your strengths, your skills, and your passions to fulfill an activity or an expectation and a goal. And usually that is at the heart of your passion and what you enjoy most. What do you do well? Thinking about what you do well is similar to what I was just sharing. Finding those times where you have just been in the zone, but also people will give you compliments in the areas. What do you get feedback on a lot? Like, wow, you do that so well. Or they may just identify you. They may say, Chandra's a connector. So in that, how they had identify her leadership is saying they see the attributes that she has and then drill down. A connector. A connector is someone who builds relationships easily and authentically. A connector is someone who also takes two different ideas or people and bring them together in a very specific reason. They see synergy. So thinking about what you do well and what you feel also inclined to do. So I use this example that was in my family that I find so fascinating. I had an uncle who's since deceased, but that was excellent in math and science, really brilliant in it actually. But it wasn't what he wanted to do. He also had a creative side, like Chandra said, that was more his passion, but my family, my grandparents, saw that as an avenue and a pathway for great success. And they weren't wrong in that. He was one of the engineers that worked on the lunar landing. So when you think about Hidden Figures, he was one of the male engineers that was a part of the lunar landing. But that was not his passion, and he grew depressed. He had physical ailments because of that, because he was doing something he was highly skilled in, but it wasn't what he was passionate about. He didn't feel like he was making the influence in the way that he chose to do. So when we say this is a personal journey, that is so key, because often people think we should do only what we're successful in and in an obvious way. And a lot of times those things are connected, but not exclusively. So looking at what you do well, that feedback that people give you, and look at those people, those mentors, those who know you well, those champions who know your values, your beliefs, your interests, and know your trajectory to help share back to you. Sometimes we can't see even what we do well. Sometimes it takes others to mirror back to us like, wow, you do this really well. And it may be something that you just do innately that you don't even recognize as a strength.
Nicole, excellently said. And one thing I want to add to that point is it's important that we also rely on wise counsel when we're identifying what we do well, because sometimes we have blind spots and maybe we're not able to see something that we're good at. It's also important to understand that your career is definitely a journey. And so sometimes you may have more insight into certain skills at a later time that maybe you didn't have maybe a few years ago. So it's really important to engage in self-reflection and to be open in a sense, because there is development that you are having as you embark on your career journey. The other part is to think about where and what is the demand for your skill set. So I'd like to use just a personal story. You know, a few years ago, Nicole and I worked at an organization together, and I've shared this previously. She was actually my supervisor who ended up becoming my mentor and my friend. And so kind of after our time at that organization, we would have lunches together, and we were both in transitions. And I would talk to her about the fact that she was such a motivator, she was such a great coach, and she had had such a phenomenal impact on my life. And I just really believed that there was opportunity for her to build a business and have great success. And so she is one of the prime examples of someone that I think about, who through our friendship, I was able to serve as a cheerleader and encourager to say, you know, you've had this impact on so many people's lives, and you may have been in environments where maybe it wasn't a fit, or maybe during a season it was a fit. However, that season then transitioned on, but there is definitely a need for your skill set. And so present day, I get a lot of joy out of watching the success that she's having, because she's such a great coach, she's such a great motivator, and she's very skilled at a lot of things. But my point in sharing this story is it's important that we don't underestimate or undermine the demand for our skill set. There is always a fit for us. There is always an opportunity for us. And that's why it always goes back to you.
Thank you so much, Chandra, for sharing that example. And it really goes to a point that even when people can tell you, wow, you have strength in a certain area, you can resist making the career transition. And there's a lot of reasons for that we will speak about further, but making those leaps and making changes are challenging, even when it's right in front of you. And it took some time and wonderful people like Chandra and others to say, I really think this would be a great move for you. And once I did, it's amazing the opportunities that followed and the interest. So thank you so much. I'm fortunate to have someone like Chandra in my corner. Designing your career roadmap. One of the main things that we view is making a shift and identifying your strengths and skills comes with intentionality. And what I have found, and I don't know who can relate to this, at the times when I needed to make a career change, I waited too late, to when I just felt disheartened, discouraged. It didn't feel like a fit. And that is the time when you're least energized to do some of the career steps and tips that you need to do to find a new role. So you need to find a role, and you're motivated to find a new occupation or a new career, a new job fit, but you don't have the energy to do that. So here's some key steps that if you're in that space I was just describing, or you know what that feels like, that you can at least put one foot in front of the other. Because once you get that ball rolling, or I like to say dominoes, that first domino is tipped over and then there's a ripple effect. So what we share is make a list of your career accomplishments. And sometimes some of you may have this listed on your LinkedIn, and many of you may just have that in your head. Write that down in a really concrete way. Take some time to do that, and even look back if you've forgotten, and ask other, look through your professional development plans and things that you have from work, and do it by decade, depending on how long you've been in the career sector. Really important to do. And the main thing about this roadmap, so the destination is going to be that right fit, that the person who's driving the car is you, and you get to determine, you get to guide that GPS of where you're going. What I've found so much when we can get discouraged, so when we talk about we may have been in that toxic environment or a place where you feel bullied, you can feel hopeless and helpless. Those are real feelings and emotions, and forget and feel handcuffed or kind of tied to that position, because many of us work because we're fulfilling a need to make an income for our households. And so to just leave and make a switch is like this isn't an option. So it can feel very limiting and demotivating, but remembering that you have the power, that you can create this roadmap, and that and you have to have patience. It's not going to happen overnight, but that you're able to determine that is a key mindset piece that makes all the difference, especially with my coaching clients who are seeking new roles and positions. Thank you.
Absolutely. And one of the things I think one of the reasons why Nicole and I are so passionate about this subject is because personally we've both walked through it. I think and then separately, but I can just speak so frankly to that place of feeling stuck, and it's icky. And I love to tell people that growth is icky because, you know, if you think back to when you were maybe a teenager or young adult and maybe your body was stretching, it hurts because you're growing and you're transitioning in life. And so it's the same thing with your career. So it's so important too that even when you think about making a list of your accomplishments, it's okay to even go back to elementary school when you earned a prize for a great speech, or when you led debate club in high school. It's important that you're able to really identify that you have accomplishments, that there are goals and achievements that you have attained in every area in every time of your life. And the point of this is that you also want to maintain your confidence, because job transitions, career transitions, and life transitions can sometimes affect our self-esteem. And so it's always important to go back to a time where you felt a win, and knowing that through the transition, there is always a win on the other side.
So well said.
So I will, I'll speak to the first 3 bullets on here. I shared this, I think I shared this story in our session. Again, Nicole recently was one of those people who really walked me through my recent transition because I have assumed a new role and I'm in the 3rd week of my new role. And, you know, I knew that I had to create a vision, and there's a common saying that you write the vision and you make it plain. So sometimes when we're in transitions, we tell people, write it out, create your vision board, but that can be overwhelming when you feel overwhelmed. So sometimes you can just take maybe 10 minutes a day and kind of brainstorm and just jot out some of your thoughts. So one of the things that I did was I wrote out the salary that I wanted, ideally, and I put it on a sticky note and kept it in my room in front of my face every day. I also wrote out the role and the title that I wanted, and then the type of work hours. So of course that goes by sometimes if we're salary or non-salary, or the environment that we're working in. But the importance is that we are actually writing out and putting into practice, putting it out in the universe, that these are our ideal, our non-negotiables, what we ideally want in a job. And also we will not settle for less. And even if it takes time for us to achieve those goals, we're still writing it out and giving ourselves permission to have these things that we ideally want in our role. And Nicole, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Again, you have such great points. And I don't know about those of you that are on this call, but something I work with my coaching clients on, and something I've had to overcome, is my self-talk around my goals. So saying our salary, saying what we want, and then we go, oh no, but I don't have my master's. I can't. No, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't want. What Chandra is saying is put out your first thought. Not that context around why you may have imposter syndrome. You don't think that you deserve that. That self-talk is saying that you are going to take less because you think that's what you deserve. And I did similarly to Chandra some time ago, and I need to really go back and use some of these tips. You know, we forget, and they're refreshing, and I need to do it as well. I set a goal for a salary, and I knew that where I was with my education and my experience, I couldn't get that same day, but I set a tier that I was going to go to this next level and then go to the next, and I was going to reach that salary. I staged it out, but I still kept that ultimate goal in mind, and I not only reached it, but I exceeded it at a time that I never would have thought that I would have. Setting your intention, it's something about the actions will follow. And there's many ways that people have addressed this and spoken to it, but people have shared that this has happened time and time again. So I really encourage you, when you set those goals, what is the language and the self-narrative that you're saying around those goals? Because that is key. The last 3, so culture, chemistry, and growth opportunity, your non-negotiables. We know that saying culture eats strategy for lunch is a truth that permeates every environment. But what I even say about culture also eats good leaders for lunch. and there's those of you who are on this call may have been a part of an organization that you had every skill set that needed to accomplish your position and to do well, but the toxic environment told you that there was a different place where you should be, or that isn't a place where you could persist and excel and thrive. And so finding the culture of an organization and business is so key, and that's challenging, right? Because what people present on their glossy websites, in an interview, in a job posting may not show that, or it often doesn't. So being able to vet that organization or business by doing some additional research, and that's that qualitative research, asking someone who may have worked there before, noting if there's been a mass exodus, because sometimes that's indicative of some additional issues. And
We might have lost Nicole for a moment.
No, I was wondering if it was my internet. Did it freeze?
Yeah, I think we're good. It's just Nicole's. While we wait for Nicole to hop back on, Chandra, would you like to add anything to the culture, chemistry, or growth opportunity piece?
Sure. I was so enthralled in what she was talking about that I'm like, ah. But I will, and so on our last call, I'll mention, Phil, we just had a great conversation in our last session talking about the importance of culture. I am such a passion person and such a people person that I really think that culture is at the core of whatever we do in an organization. I think this is one of those points where, you do have people that feel like they can walk in the door and they have kind of their work face. However, you have the people that doesn't work for them. They really want to be in an environment where they feel like they can be their authentic selves. So I think as we talk about culture, for you to self-reflect and say, I want to be in a culture that really fits my personality. Or maybe you feel as though you will thrive in a culture where you can wear kind of your hat when you're at home and your hat when you're at work. And that is something that you want in your career. The importance of it is that you need to be in a culture that fits for you. I mention a lot of times that for me personally, emotional intelligence is something that I thrive on. And so I really have to be in an environment that supports that and understand, and they also understand that that is really the core of my leadership philosophy. Which leads me to the next point of chemistry, is that it's so important that you are in an environment that really aligns with who you are. So aligning with your core values, aligning with your personal passions, and aligning with your vision for your future. And then lastly, it really is about growth opportunity. So you owe it to yourself to be in an environment where but that you can grow and you can develop, and that you have the support that you need to succeed. And I think that Nicole has joined us.
I have. Thank you for your patience. Murphy's Law, right? When you give a presentation, then the internet drops out. So thank you for picking up, Chandra. I knew you and April would be.
I was so enthralled with, I think I took a pause, so thank everyone for their patience. I was like, no, where did she go? I was enjoying what you were talking about so well. So welcome back.
Thank you so much.
So now is the time. I really feel like this is our favorite part of the discussions, is that we are going to move into the breakout rooms. Now, I have to say this with humor. We always run out of time in our breakouts. However, that's a good sign. And so a few of the topics that we want to chat about in the breakout rooms are, what are the barriers to finding fit and fulfillment? During the pandemic, have you been able to develop your idea of your ideal job? And then lastly, what are your deal breakers, or what are your must-haves as you think about career fit and fulfillment? So we actually will take about maybe 12 minutes for our breakout discussions, and then we'll all come back together as a group.
Perfect. So everyone, you'll receive an invitation in a moment on your screen to join the breakout room. Before we do that, if you want to grab a quick screenshot of the topics for the small group discussion, you'll have Nicole and Chandra there to facilitate, but if you want that to reference, you won't be able to see it when you're in the breakout room, so you can take a screenshot now and have that once you go in there. I'm going to go ahead and open the room so you'll see that invitation, and then we'll bring everybody back together at 12:45. Also, we don't record small group discussion. We just record the main presentation. So it's a safe space to have that conversation.
In our group, we talked about how during this season, we were surprised, many of us, that working virtually would be as pleasurable and as beneficial as we liked, and we can't see going back to something different. But then I asked the question, did those who are parents feel that way? Because there's an added, and even a caregiver of another family member, there's an added pressure. And Rachel and her wife have come up with a system so that they have shared partnership and they are sharing the responsibility, so that allows the environment to go well. So thank you for that. That was really good. And Shelley had a question. Sorry, Shelley, put you on the spot. I don't know if you want to share it or if you wanted me to, but that was really good feedback that I wanted to bring to the large group because it was thoughtful.
Sure, I'm happy to share it. I had to, when it was a few slides back, what tools do you recommend for self-assessment regarding interest, aptitude, and agilities? And then how do we assess the demand for the skill set? Are there tools for that as well?
I answer the first part. I have to think about the second, Shelley, but many of you have probably done a lot of these inventories. Of course, the more traditional and one that's been seasoned is the Myers-Briggs, as well as Strength Finders is another one. And then there's Compass that says if you're a north, a south, a east, or a west. They're more personality kind of inventories, but then they direct you towards careers that are similar in that style. I've also seen predictive index. The thing about these, and that is just as it says, it predicts based on past behavior, how you will respond in the future and what environment you may succeed in. What's challenging about some of these inventories, they often have a fee associated with them. I'm going to have to look up and find those that are free, and they're often done within groups. So being able to search to see if there's one, Strengths Finders, I think has one that's just, you can do it independently. They send you your results, and that's a part of the guide. I caution, use those indexes, but then also take that with the qualitative information from those wise counsel, as Chandra said, who know you, and how those behaviors manifest. And then think also too, where do you just feel so comfortable? You feel like your authentic self, that you don't have to put on a mask, that you don't have to change, that it just feels natural. And those will be some really great ways to guide you, Shelley, and others of you who maybe have the same concern. Knowing the industry, there's different, when you Google, there's different listings of what are the top careers that people are seeking, and industries that are coveting and seeking new people to join that labor force, but that isn't always indicative of where we are regionally. Sometimes that's a national landscape, and the Midwest may have some specific niches. I would suggest talking with career coaches or talking with some additional individuals that may be in the sectors that you're interested in, and asking them questions about what do they see moving forward. I know you're in development, and there's always development roles available within the not-for-profit sector. That's a highly coveted and open positions, but it's just going sector by sector and asking key questions. I don't know if Chandra has other advice on that, but oh, you're on mute, I think. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.
The Enneagram. I don't know how many of you have heard of the Enneagram. I feel like it's definitely a personality assessment, but I think since we're talking about careers, it is great holistically to look at how your personality impacts your relationships, both personally and professionally. And you can kind of take two versions of that assessment. So there's, I think, a more expensive one that is very thorough. I think it's maybe 30 pages. And then there's a shorter one that you can take. And we can always, Shelley, this is such a great question, put together a list and email it out to everyone. But to add with Nicole, my favorites are Strengths Finder, Myers-Briggs, and then also Enneagram. The Enneagram is something that I did earlier this year, and it was very helpful for me just to understand the dynamics of my relationships, and then also what type of leader I am.
And I just want to add something that Shelley said too. I did Myers-Briggs, and that stays pretty consistent, but there's some things that have changed or kind of fluxed over my career as I have evolved or if I've grown. So if you've done this in the past, you may want to do it again to see where you are today, because it does, the core of you stays the same, but there's some things that may change and manifest itself differently that I think is valuable.
So
Absolutely, I agree.
An hour is like nowhere near enough
I know,
time
we're almost
to
done.
dive into these topics efficiently. And Chandra has the most busy day today, so she's going to have to hop off right at 1. But we've got a few more minutes left, so I was hoping that maybe we could cover some of the additional tips that you two had shared, and then I can send a follow-up email with some of these different assessments and tools and resources. And I know Chandra shared a few really great articles, so I'll include that as well.
Yeah, so since I have to hop off at 1, I'll just touch on the first 3 bullets. I, again, just want to say thank you, April, thank you, Nicole, and thank you to everyone. We had such a great discussion in our breakout room, and I think what I enjoy the most about the opportunity to co-present with Nicole is that I really think that we come together and we can kind of, our personalities play well off of each other. So I appreciate that these type of discussions can either keep us in a space that's very high level, or we can go very deep. And so in our breakout room, we really touched on confidence and just how it impacts every area of our life. And so as I go into the additional tips, I think it's so important that we remember to engage in self-reflection. And this is an opportunity to get to know every part of ourselves. There are some parts of ourselves that sometimes we tend to hide or is uncomfortable, but one of the best pieces of advice that I received was your career journey is a spiritual journey. And I think we have to think about it that way. It's really how we connect with the world and how we connect with ourselves. And so that's why it's important to engage in self-reflection. Create your vision. So, you know, we're all busy people, we're all busy professionals. And so like, even in my new role, I just decided, okay, trying to do a vision board, trying to write all of these paragraphs is too much. So I got a Post-it board and did sticky notes and said, these are the things that I need to focus on, and I'm keeping it in front of my face, and that's been very helpful for me. So create your vision in a way that it makes sense to you, and also take the time to write it out, but get started, even if it's with a sticky note. And then ignite your passion. All of you have taken the time to sit with us during lunch, during the pandemic, because there's something in you that's passionate about this subject. And so ignite your passion, because even if you're finding yourself fulfilled in your career, I pretty much guarantee that you're able to inspire others to do the same. And so we know that our journeys are not just about us, it's about others. And so the world needs your passion. And Nicole, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. So seek wise counsel, as Chandra and I have spoken about. So I will continue through that, because we've spoken about that several times. And honor your values. I think that is so key. I once had a gentleman who offered to be my mentor, and he's very influential in the city, but his values didn't match mine. I think I shared that earlier. And if I had followed that path, that I wouldn't be able to look myself in the mirror, because some of the ways in which he conducted himself wasn't the style in which I wanted to. Finding what that compasses, those values that anchor you are so key. And then accomplish your goal. The tip for accomplish your goal, I think they're referencing making sure that you set that goal, that destination. Remember I said you're driving, you have this roadmap and it's the GPS, but your goal, even if it takes you 6 months, it takes you a year, you are setting goals along the way to find that right fit, and that you're putting one foot in front of the other. And that it's easy to get overwhelmed, but you're saying that destination is more valuable, more important than getting detoured. And if you do get detoured, that you can go right back on path. So I think that is so key in these additional tips. And we've so appreciated your comments and your engagement today. I know we're getting towards the end, and there's the 3 sessions. Even if they missed them, April, are they able to go back and view the first 2?
They are in the chat box.
Thank you.
While everybody was in breakout, I went ahead and put the links to both of them, so you can click on those. I'll also include them in the follow-up email, along with those additional articles that were referenced, and reading resources, and then the tools and assessments and things like that.
Wonderful. And there's a couple people on this call that have had career transitions during this pandemic, and I asked them to share their information too in ways that we could support their businesses or their ideas. We know that during this season, many of us have found ourselves in career transitions that we didn't anticipate based on the current circumstance, and leaning into the community that we have here and the ongoing community within the Bloch School. We're here as a resource, and feel free to reach out to me as well if there are other areas that you want to go deeper in. And the same thing with Chandra. So we wish her well on her trip to Boston for her new role.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. So I would love to stay connected with everyone. And I'll say this before I hop off. My dream was to be palm trees and beaches on the West Coast. And I'm heading to the Northeast where they can somehow have 6 inches of snow that meets you at your door. So excited for my new journey, but I'm so thankful to have this opportunity to spend this time with each of you. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. And with that, we'll close out, and please take our contact information and feel free to follow us on social media. I'm glad to see all of you. And hi, Jessica. I see so many people that joined, and it was good to see you. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.